Hello and welcome to that Deacon on YouTube. Well, I had a lovely vacation, good break time during the month of August, and that break time led me to what I'd like to talk to you about this month. But first, I'd like to share something else. Not too long ago, last year at some point, I went to visit a couple of parishioners that I hadn't seen in a while, and they no longer live directly in our area. And so we went out and we had lunch and we had a great visit. And then when I was leaving, I noticed that in front of their complex where they live, they had one of those free libraries. And I thought that would be a great thing for St. George's. So what I did during Pentecost season was we have a little pig. It's a pink piggy bank. And I put the piggy bank out and we accepted donations. And by June, we had collected enough to buy a pre-made little library. We still had to put it together and mount it on a post. And before I left for my break, that unit had arrived, but it had to be further weatherproofed and whatnot. But anyway, we just got it up on our grounds, so I'd like to share it with you right now with a picture. Isn't it cute? It's nice and red, and we have it full of books right now, and there's a group of volunteers from the church that offered to curate the library and keep track of it. So way to go, people of St. George's. It was a neat community project. So when I got back from my break, I thought that I'd like to talk about something that sometimes probably clergy talks about or other people might have mentioned, but it's something that I think is crucial to our daily living nowadays. And the longer I study theology, you think that something over here is different, but then all of a sudden, something over here you find that you think is totally unrelated can be connected to God. Well, this has to do with honoring the Sabbath. And by Sabbath, we have been trained to think going to church. But that's not really what the Sabbath means. The Sabbath means to rest. And I wonder how many of us truly take time to rest. Typically during my vacation, I set up a personal little project. As some of you know, I compose music. I've been doing it now. I added up the other day. I've been at it for like 46, 47 years. So I started when I was quite young. It was around 14, 15. But this time, I rarely worked on anything. I just rested. I slept. I played my 2 computer games. I have a PS4 and my desktop, and I have 2 different games that I played. I played those. I just disconnected from what I normally do, and I found it quite relaxing. So at my thoughtful walking group that I met today, I asked this question. Now, a number of people in my group are retired, so I thought I'd get a unique perspective on this, and I got exactly what I thought I'd get. But here's the quote from Abraham Joshua Heschel, who wrote the definitive book called The Sabbath. If you've never read it, I suggest you get it. Here's a quote, and I'm going to have 2 quotes from him today. The first one, this is what I gave to my thoughtful walking group that I met today. The Sabbath, or a day of rest, is a day on which we learn the art of surpassing civilization. Boy, that's an interesting concept. Surpassing civilization. This threw everyone for a loop. They didn't know what surpass meant in context to this sentence. I asked the question of my people, how would you define a perfect day of rest? And you'd be surprised that a perfect day of rest for most people included getting something done that they had been putting off. So it involved labor. One person talked about pruning their trees, and he couldn't rest until the trees were pruned. Another person said that when they were working, they would often take stuff home on the weekends because they wouldn't be interrupted and they could get more work done. But I tried to remind them that a day of rest meant everything is put aside. But typically, resting on a day off meant mowing the lawn or doing laundry, or if you have a family, tending to your family. People don't take the Sabbath anymore. And I think that is contributing to the high anxiety level that many people feel. It also heightens the problems that students are having, especially in middle school and high school these days. They truly don't take a day of rest, setting everything aside. Here's another quote by Heschel that I find quite interesting. The meaning of the Sabbath is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things of space. Meaning, space, what we have in front of us at this moment, our work. On the Sabbath, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. Holiness. People tend to equate holiness with something that is religious in its context, and it can be, and many times is. But the actual term holiness means to be set apart. So can your Sabbath time, your time taken just for you and your well-being, be set aside? Well, that's something that God has prescribed for all of us. Work hard 6 days a week. Work your butts off if you must. But 1 day a week, take time for you to do what you would like to do that makes you fulfilled. He goes on to say, it is a day on which we are called to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. It's time to remind you that sometimes we forget what the word recreation means. Recreation, pronounced correctly, should be called recreation. You need to be recreated, and you can't do that when you're busy doing tasks. Think of how your life might be different if you took only 1 day a week to do things that fulfilled you. It's a time to just let you recreate yourself so that when you go back to the grind on Monday or whatever is your first day of the week, you'll be fulfilled. Now for me, my perfect Sabbath does include a day of worship. I absolutely love Sundays. Even though I helped lead a service, even before I was ordained and a regular member of a parish, I enjoyed my Sundays. That fed me for that day. I enjoyed being in community. And I so look forward to that Monday when I had a day like that. Do you think that this gift is something you should not receive? I hope not. I hope that you give yourself a day to just be. Think about the Sabbath. Think about those times you really need to just settle down. Sabbath, in the first instance, is not about worship. It is about work stoppage. It is about withdrawal from the anxiety system of Pharaoh, meaning your overlord, your boss, your company, the thing that you must do to survive. It's the refusal to let one's life be defined by production and consumption, and the endless pursuit of private well-being. Take time. See if your life changes. It's a gift from God, and you haven't experienced that gift until you take the time to do it. And trust me, you will be transformed.